Hey there everybody, welcome back to Taco's Virtual Mode as we are going to get into this week's midweek devotion. I hope you guys had a great spring break, had some time to relax and enjoy time with your family and maybe go somewhere cool. And now we are going to get right back into what we usually do here on our Wednesdays, and we're going to get into one of my favorite stories in the Bible today. So stick around if you want to hear some great stuff about a really fun story. So here we go. So friends, for today's midweek devotion, I want to take you through an Easter story, but it's not the typical Easter story that you hear on Easter Sunday. It's not the typical one where you have people going to the tomb, finding the tomb empty, having either an angel or Jesus appear to them and say that he is risen and to go tell the others. It's not that typical story, but it's one that happens slightly after where there are these two men on the road to Emmaus. This is one of my favorite stories from the Bible, and I am very excited to take you through it today. So we are going to go through the story on the road to Emmaus from Luke chapter 24, verses 13 through 35. Yes, we're going to do the whole story. I know we haven't done a full story. We've just been doing verses on midweek devotions, but today I feel like it's a great time to really dive into something that we can use for this world that we live in today. So we're going to get into the road to Emmaus, and it goes like this. Now that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there these days?" "What things?" he asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning but didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see Jesus." He said to them, "How foolish you are, and how slow to believe all the prophets had spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going farther. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening, and the day is almost over." So he went to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread and gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked to us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" They got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 and those with them, assembled together and saying, "It is true, the Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon." Then the two told them what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. So, friends, there is another Easter story, a story talking about 3 days later, these men on the road to Emmaus, walking with Jesus next to them eventually, telling them about Jesus, and then Jesus eventually showing himself to the men. Now, I think the powerful part in this story is analyzing the men's behavior and how they were pretty fearful. In this story, we hear that when this man approaches them, who is Jesus, their faces were downcast, and they were speaking softly. They didn't want anybody to really hear what was going on, because to them, their leader, their person who they relied on, the person who they believed was the Messiah, was dead. The person that was their Messiah was killed, was buried, and now all of a sudden his body was gone? All these things culminate into their fear for their lives because people are out there wanting to take away the followers of Christ. You know, Jesus was killed for a reason, and these people were now probably off to go into hiding or something like that. I'm not really necessarily up to a level of understanding of what their behavior really means, but I'm sure it was fearful. It was one where they were running away, one where they didn't want to speak too loudly about this Jesus man, and they were pretty scared because their leader had been killed. And that leader, Jesus, was someone who they believed was here to save them, here to be the Son of God, and now that is gone. It's a world of fear. It's a world of, looking over your shoulder. And I think the world that we live in today can sometimes look like this. Maybe not as severe as these people were, taking on, but certainly there are fears in this world that we are overcome with. There are things that we fear all the time. But the powerful thing in this story, and it's more or less the way in which we get to look at this story, is the world of those disciples on the road to Emmaus is not the world that we live in today. The world of fear that they lived in is not the world that we live in today because, friends, we live in the world of the resurrection. We live in the world that these men realize at the end of the story is true and that Jesus has risen from the dead. And unlike these men in the beginning of their story, we go day in and day out knowing this message. We know that the world we're living in is the world of the resurrection. It's right in there for us in the story that Jesus has raised from the dead and that Jesus is the Messiah, the one true King sent here to save you. And so though our days may have fears like what these men experienced, and those fears might be very strong, it is important for you to remember that you live in the world of the resurrection, that you live in the world of abundant love, that you live in the world of grace, and that you live in a world that you are saved. So friends, I hope that today, going forward, after hearing this story and after experiencing Easter, this is something that you can take and understand that you live in a world of love rather than a world of fear. And that you can go on just as these men did and spread that good word. Spread the news that Jesus is risen and spread the news that you are to love one another. And that is the cool part in this story that I love, that this is the Easter message that we know and get to share. And we, like the men, now understand that Jesus has risen from the dead. And it is a great thing for us to spread. These men were on a walk to Emmaus from Jerusalem, and this story points out that it's about 7 miles. When they experience Jesus in their midst, what do? They run back to Jerusalem. It took them all day to get to this place, but they're running back to tell the 11. I want us to make sure that we go out into the world today and do it with the same energy that they did in sharing and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is alive in this world, that Jesus is the good news, and that we all are to live a life out of love and grace. So that is what I'm going to leave you with today. I know it got a little bit of preachy, but it's one of those stories that I really like to share and really like to dive into the good news of the resurrection. So that is how I want to leave you today, friends. I hope that you can go forward from this week and every week understanding the story and understanding the good news and the resurrected life of Jesus Christ. So happy post-Easter season. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I hope you enjoyed listening to this little message. Sorry it went a little longer than usual, but like I said, it's something I get really excited about. So I will leave you with that, and I will see you again on Friday when we come back here for another video. So until then, have a good one.